Welcome, everybody. We're here for another life skill series with Living Chassidus. Tonight, we have women's health. So that's our topic. And the title is called Control Your Moods So They Don't Control You. And we are so lucky to have my really good friend, Sara Silverstein. She is an IBCLC, an RH, AGH. You're like
They're like letters nobody knows.
Literally, just throw the letters in the alphabet and she's all of them. So she is a lactation consultant, master herbalist, and classical homeopath, and the author of the book MOODTOPIA, which you can see right here. And you can order it on Amazon and all kinds of places, right? I've seen it in all kinds of places. So can't wait for this talk. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Welcome. Let me get this as movable as possible. So I apologize that we had this, and I was like, Michal, we've already done this. She's like, I know, Sarah Khanna, but you chose it. But that doesn't mean that there's not 20 billion topics around this question of how do we control our mood so they don't control us. And the most important thing is to know that Hashem made us moody, and moods are really important, and sadness is important, and happiness is important, and frustration is important, and depression is important, or they wouldn't be part of our system. But my whole goal is to make sure that we don't become captive, like we're hijacked by these moods and we're handcuffed by them and we get stuck in these ruts, because that way we can't move forward. When I first became a homeopath, I was kind of young and dumb, a lot of years ago. And I'm sitting in this class, non-Jews, I'm the only Jew anywhere to be found, with the sheitel on my head, feeling awkward and strange. And this, I think he was Swedish homeopath, stands up there. And he's talking about Samuel Hahnemann, the man that revealed homeopathy. It's very interesting. He lived at the same time as the Alter Rebbe. So to me, it was like the Alter Rebbe opened up Chassidus to the world. And to me, Samuel Hahnemann opened up the world of the mind-body connection and the ability to heal and know that we have some control over our healing. Before this time, like if you had a disease, it was from some spirit that took you over, or some bacteria that took you over, or even if a woman had seizures, it was, because she was a bad person. There was a very big misunderstanding about our physical body. And so this man stands up there and says, well, this is what Samuel Hahnemann said to homeopaths, that the maker or God drops a soul in the body, and the body is here to take us on our journey through life. And that the reason a homeopath has to heal the body is so that the soul can do what it needs to in the world. And that's our whole job as homeopaths. So, you go on Instagram and you're like, hi, I'm an herbalist, and if you want to get rid of your wrinkles, use this essential oil. You know what I mean? Or we have these like life coaches like, I just did 5,000 sit-ups and now I have the flattest stomach in the world. And the answer is this what's making us healthy? And the answer is no, it's making us feel insecure, self-conscious. Oh my gosh, my hair's not perfect. I've got a couple wrinkles. My skin's not perfect. So it's actually doing the opposite of health. So when I teach about health, it's not about, like running that marathon, unless that's your goal. It's a question of keeping your body in a state that allows you to accomplish, and we're going to say the mitzvahs that we have to do in this world. And we believe that we're all Gilgulim, we've been here before, and that our neshama in this lifetime needs to learn something or accomplish something. And if you've got really bad menstrual cramps, you're not going to go help your friend that just had a baby, right? You're going to say, oh my God, I can't, I'm here with a heating pad, right? And if you're having reflux and indigestion, you're not going to come help Michal set up an event, right? And if you have a really bad backache, you're not going to help your friend that just had a baby and need you to take her 2- and 4-year-old to the park, right? So we want to keep your body healthy so it doesn't get in the way of your success. Does that make sense? I don't want your body aches and pains to prevent you from doing what you need to do in the world. And that's what good health is all about. That's good physical health, and that's good emotional health. So what I'm going to talk about today is, again, not going to allow you to be, that 3/4 naked person on Instagram telling you how healthy they are. This is in the real life. Those of us that get an occasional acne, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That, our figures are not perfect, but how do we stay healthy? How does our neshama in this goof stay healthy enough to make it till 120, do whatever we need to do in this world, so maybe we don't have to come back to this world of Golos again and start all over again, right? So I had a client, and we were talking about laughter. And I want to read this passage. This is from a book written in 1928. Okay, 1928 was still the feeling that, as I said before, a seizure was from a bad spirit that overtook your body, and if you had asthma, it was some bad curse that you had on you. And so this was pretty revolutionary thought. So this is an MD, and he talks about laughter, which is particular to man, is shared by no other animals, is a process very difficult to understand from its mental aspect. For no one has ever been able to explain satisfactorily just why our diaphragm goes into a series of convulsive movements whenever we hear anything funny. While laughter is a complete mystery from the mental aspect, it is easy to appreciate its far-reaching physical effects. The diaphragm, the principal organ involved in it, is in intimate anatomical relations with all the organs in the body that carry on physical life. As laughter always makes us feel better for having indulged in it, it is evident that the effect of the movements of this diaphragm to the large organs in its neighborhood is somehow beneficial. There seems to be no doubt that hearty laughter stimulates practically all the large organs by making them do their work better through the increase of circulation that follows the vibrational massage which accompanies laughter, heightens resistance and your vitality against disease. Besides, the mental effect brushes away the dreads and fears which constitute the basis of so many diseases and complaints, and lifts men out of the despondency they are so likely to fall into when they take themselves over seriously. And this was revolutionary from 1928. And so I wanted to begin with the importance of laughter for our emotional and physical health. How bizarre to think about the diaphragm going up and down and massaging our stomach and massaging our ovaries and our gallbladder and our liver. But it's doing medicinal things to the inside of our bodies. So there's not a lot to laugh about in this day and age. We have COVID, people lost their jobs, the political election, no matter which side you were on, rioting. I think it's really important to make a statement by, like getting a pair of Adidas shoes or Chloe shoes. But anyways, it's a world of complete chaos. And it's scary, and nobody knows what tomorrow is going to bring. Someone was talking to me about something. They're like, Sara, can you guarantee this? I was like, really? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow morning? This is a world that we haven't lived through. In the past, we always knew you'd wake up in the morning, the sun would rise, you wash nagelwasser, you say your brachas, you know what I mean? You try to eat healthy. This is a complete world of chaos. So I think for our emotional health, it's very important to have on your checklist. Wash nagelwasser, get food for Shabbos, laugh, go to the cleaners, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you incorporate in your life? So you can either find on our phones, we're all on our phones way too much, really stupid comedy, and like watch, what are those people, I don't know, the Marx Brothers or whatever, that kind of, right, old clean humor that they have out there. And every day, stop in your tracks, turn it on and watch one thing, and we're doing it for medicinal purposes, and we're laughing. And it's really important because it can lower our cortisol levels. And we talked last time that if my cortisol level, if Sara Khan's freak out point is 300, I'm just making up a number of cortisol levels. If I am always living at 250, it's too close for me to freak out all the time. So my cortisol levels need to be down at 125. So there can be rioting in the streets, people going crazy, people losing their jobs. And I'm like, I got this. I can handle all the chaos because my cortisol levels are not up at 300. Make sense? So laughter is important. And when you have kids, it's important to take time, tickle them slightly, not too much because too much tickle is torture. A little tickle here so that they can laugh. A little reminder, put up stupid, dumb little cartoons around your house because laughter is healing and it's a medicine that is free, Free. I once did a class, and we should do a class on free medicine. Like, what's the free medicine? Oxygen in the air. When you're having a panic attack, the first thing they say is breathe. Anytime an ambulance comes, the first thing they check out the person, they're like, can you just breathe? Just take some deep breaths while I'm figuring out what's going on. So that's like free oxygen. So there's a lot of free medicine, and laughter is one of those. Yes.
Is it laughter or joy? Like, is there a difference?
I think it's 100% laughter. I think that the research in this book from 1928 was the actual moving of the diaphragm in strange spasmodic patterns that stimulated all the other organs in the body. And I think that joy is a good thing, but it's sometimes hard to get to joy. But laughter, anything stupid, and even, when we panic a little bit, we laugh. Those people, you see someone trip, the first thing you do is laugh. You're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. But that kind of lowers your cortisol levels so that you can help the person. Does that make sense? That's why we laugh when we see bad things, because if we're in that heightened state of anxiety, we can't do the call to action. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's very important to know that if we're talking about free medicine, that laughter is one of those very important things. So I want to jump to my next topic of feng shui. I didn't speak about feng shui before, did I? Okay, good. I want to make sure. I was like, what didn't I speak about before? So feng shui is this ancient Asian philosophy of creating an environment that doesn't cause stress, okay? So I spent months researching it in my book, MOODTOPIA. And people that were around me were like, Sara, I think this is goyish, like feng shui, really? And I was giving a talk actually in Connecticut, in a very wealthy part of town. And there was a woman who's an interior designer, and she came over to me. She said, Sara, I did intense research with Japanese and Chinese feng shui masters because I'm an interior designer. She said, and the Beis Hamikdash is built 100% according to the thoughts of feng shui, where the doors opened, the length, the courtyard. She said, it is the perfect example of feng shui. And I said, well, thank God you just said that, because it's a chapter in my book already. So what does feng shui mean? Feng shui means that if you have a small hallway to get into your apartment, and there's something in the way that you can trip, then that can put you in a bad mood. Do you know what I mean? If every time you're trying to squeeze out this little hallway and you like trip, that's annoying. And that's already going to put you in a bad mood before you walk in the house or out of the house. If the doorknob is a little loose in your clothing cabinet and you overslept and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to be at work at 9 o'clock and it's like 20 to 9 and your handle on your cabinet is a little annoying, that's going to put you over the edge. Does that make sense? So what feng shui is about is creating an environment that doesn't allow things to get in the way of going from point A to point B. Feng shui talks about not putting any pictures up in your bedroom about family members, because you could look over there and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe my brother forgot to pick up my mother last week at the doctor. And then you're laying in bed for 20 minutes steaming about that. Or even pictures of your own child, like, really, why did Shmuley hit Hanan? Why? Why did he do that? Right? So we're supposed to, in our bedroom, have pictures of plants, lakes, sunsets, so that when we get into our room to go to sleep and get our rest, to invigorate us for the next day, that there's not distractions around us. Your phone is not supposed to be in your room because the vibrational energy of the phone is way too much. And I lay there in bed and go, oh my gosh, I forgot to text my son. Okay, put it down. Oh my gosh, my daughter. Do you know what I'm saying? And my brain is not going to be able to slow down. They talk about the importance of not having clutter around. Because when you have clutter around, you have a cluttered mind.
I'm just going to say, in 2 weeks, 2 Wednesdays from today,
yes,
I'm going to have Rivka Caroline talk about this.
Yes.
And
her book is fabulous, right?
Yes,
fabulous.
Exactly. So she's doing 2 sessions.
Yes.
Everybody come back.
I love that. That's great. It's very important.
2 weeks.
So we have a struggle because most of us live in too small spaces in very old homes. And it causes a problem because it leads itself to mess. Now, it's not that the mess is not sometimes important. You know what I mean? Like, I've had a horrible week. I didn't have time to do any cleaning. But the more conscious that you are of it, the less cluttered your brain will be, and the easier you can go through life. Because my whole talk about being in control of your moods, they don't control you, is how do we not let these little frustrations get in the way of our success? They say that when you're looking in the mirror, that you should have like a beautiful plant or bouquet of flowers, so that every time you look in the mirror, you're like, oh my gosh, is that circles under my eyes? But you're like, oh, I think I can cope, because your eyes are going to see this beautiful flower or plant off to the side of you. So there's a lot of things that we can do to create an environment that will help us be less frustrated and accomplish the things that we need to in life. So taking a couple hours of our lives to reorganize our environment is really, really important. Sometimes we just put our bed in that position because we thought it was the only way it fit in the room. Does that make sense? Sometimes we got an old cabinet from someone and it's so ugly. That doesn't mean that you can't on Amazon get a bunch of fun stickers, you know, beautiful flower stickers, and put it all over it and make it into an artistic thing that you see and makes you feel better. So being conscious of your environment, like having a hook by your front door where you put your jacket and you put your house keys, is going to make you less frustrated when you're running late and oversleep in the morning. So that's what Feng Shui is all about. It's very interesting because why do Chinese restaurants have these big, aquariums with fish in it? And one of the reasons is because the movement of the fish going back and forth can calm your mind. And the water moving behind the fish can calm our mind. So the Japanese and Chinese and Korean believe that after you order your food, you should meditate on the fish for 2 or 3 minutes to make sure that your stomach is calm before you eat, to aid with your digestion. For sure. So all these concepts are there to help calm the mind and the body all the time. Does that make sense? So all these older customs were really all about how to be less anxious, because, you know, there was the Spanish Inquisition, there was World War II that we lived through. You know, it's not like this is calm times. I was just listening, Allah Shalom, to my favorite Rabbi, Lord Jonathan Sachs. I became his groupie right before he passed away. And I was like, really, Rabbi Sachs? Now I'm just getting into you. And he was talking about the chaos of the world with COVID. And he was like, here's the bottom line. He said, Jews have never not lived without chaos. He said, we are resilient to chaos, right? He said, if any people have lived through it all and come out ahead, he said, so you need to know that we're built to handle. all these kind of crises. But most of us need tools. Most of us need tools. And so feng shui, making your environment as comfortable as possible, even if it's a dingy little basement, even if it's a super dingy, horrible, disgusting basement, doesn't mean you can't get one of those light bulbs that simulate sun. And you can turn it on occasionally and sit under it and see how that feels. That doesn't mean that you can't take a paintbrush and just paint the door, the back of your bathroom door, to be a beautiful color that makes you feel good. It doesn't mean that you can't go up to these people that are selling flowers on Shabbos. And by the way, they will open up those bouquets and give you whatever you want out of them, especially before Shabbos. Because I usually go over and go, I hate carnations. I'm not a fan of baby's breasts, and I don't want those. I'm going to throw them away. What I really want is 4 roses, and they will open up. I don't know that they want everybody to, but they'll open it up and give you just the roses from 2 or 3 bouquets and sell it to you as happy as can be. But it doesn't mean that not buying 1 flower a day, they're like $2 to put it on your desk or in your bathroom, you're totally worth it. Okay. So I want to jump to color. And I want to talk a little bit about color palettes, something else I talk about in my book, MOODTOPIA. And Michal is like, oh no, Sarah is getting into it. It's an amazing thing. So love it. No, I'm saying in a good way. It's amazing. So I'm going to explain the history of color paletting a little bit. It was really popular in the 1970s, and it kind of fell out of favor in America. It was kind of this fatty thing. So there was this artist, and I forget his name, I write about it in my book, but I'm already writing MOODTOPIA for kids, so I can't remember all the details. Yeah. I'm working hard on it. It's got some fascinating stuff. So he was the first man that ever discovered the color wheel. He's the one that made the color wheel. And what he did was he ran a big art school. I don't remember where it is. I should have looked at it before I came, so I apologize. And he would ask his students to draw a still picture of, you know, an apple, an orange, a decanter of water. And he would say, I only want you to use the colors of fall. And then the next week, they could only use the colors of spring. And the week after that, they could only use the colors of summer. And the week after that, only the colors of winter. And no matter what colors they used, he said every single time he could pick up that painting, and no matter what group of people of students he was talking to, they would know what season it was. So he was very into each person has a color palette according to their season. There are people that do well with fall colors, which are gorgeous now. I mean, I just drove up and back from Muncie, and there's burgundies, and there's rusts, and there's yellows, and there's greens, just this most gorgeous palette. Then when it comes to the spring, we have vibrant reds and yellows and pinks. And in the summer, it becomes a little more foggy. A lot of the flowers are wilting, and we have all these beautiful sunsets, but the sun is so strong that everything has a little bit of a, what's the word? Certainly not a shadow. Muted, exactly. The colors are very muted. And then muted, like they're shaded a little bit. They're not strong, like not a strong red. It would be a red that has like a white in it. So it's not quite a red. It's a muted color. And then you'd get colors in the winter, which were like white snow with red berries on trees, or white snow with these green spruce trees that came. And there's a lot of shadows of grays and blacks. And so clinical studies show that different colors affect us differently. And that colors are vibrational energy that vibrate in the air, and we see the vibration becomes the color. So certain colors vibrate at a calmer color, and certain colors vibrate at a more intense color. And I employ all of you to go out and find some colors. Either you can get your palette done with this wonderful woman named Jessica that does color palettes. It's quite expensive. Or you can just stand in front of a mirror at a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx and find some colors that make you feel good. So if it's in the dead of winter and you're depressed and nothing's going well and you have like this coral color, it's going to make you see more vibrant in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, instead of seeing all these dark circles under my eyes and, oh my gosh, can anybody tell that I forgot to wash my face this morning? You're going to see this vibrant color. And if you're in a more low-key mood, you can go ahead and put on a blue, which is a softer color that gives a different mood and a different energy. So back to Feng Shui. Feng Shui talks a lot about colors, and it talks about increasing the different multitude of colors around you to pick up your moods and make you feel better. So if you're stuck in a boring office, I mean, now we're not working as much at home because of COVID, but you literally, if you're in one of those little cubicles, you could literally get contact paper and make the whole wall like a pink for a week. Then you could take your contact paper down. What did it cost you? Like 50 cents? And the next week could be vibrant yellow. Does that make sense? So it's very important to not get stuck in the colors that we wear. I wear a lot of black and gray. Yes, I'm a winter, but I have to occasionally put on a vibrant color and it brings a zest of energy. I remember I was doing a TV show once and I had to get up at like 4 a.m. Oh my gosh, I was so sleep deprived. And I was wearing high heels and like, this girdle to look really thin. And I was wearing this gray color on my color palette. And in the backseat of my car, I threw off my high heels, put on tennis shoes. My makeup was a little smeared like this because I was so tired rubbing my eyes. My shirt was a little off center. And I went to the mall to pick up something for one of my kids. And like 3 people stopped me and said, oh my gosh, that's such a gorgeous color. You look great. And I was honestly a disaster. Okay. I did not look great, but the color brought out the best in me. So I brought a example of my personal color palette somewhere in here. And I want you all to start thinking, here's my color palette. This was done professionally. And these are the colors that when my shaitel's not on and I have a bland tichel and I have no makeup on, these are the colors that make my face look less wrinkly, maybe a little less tired. And so once I got this done, when I go shopping in the store, I just go like this. I just find the color. I'm like, done, got that, go on to life. And this one's in this family of colors, the ones that I'm wearing. I'm a winter with spring colors. And here's this over here. Yeah. What kind of winter is that called? I don't remember. You'll have to ask my daughter. Huh? Because winter goes right into spring. So there's that cusp where it's still winter, but some of those spring colors are coming through. So I'm kind of right on that cusp. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to share with you that Brooklyn, well, not everybody on Zoom, but all of us in this classroom here, we live in Brooklyn. It's dark and gloomy. We don't get a lot of sun, right? But that doesn't mean on the dashboard of your car, you can't have a little beautiful flower. Exactly. Or a little sticker of a flower. Because color can make us feel better. And I just want everybody to know, because we're talking about inexpensive. And again, how much is a scarf? You can go to TJ Maxx and spend $3 on a scarf. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to introduce that to you in trying to be less moody and more happy. Okay. So now I want to talk about foods. Okay. So, again, if you go on Instagram, you've got a woman, in her bikini going, hi, I'm the nutritionist. And if you guys want to be healthy and happy, this is what you need to eat, right? You know what I mean? And even on Facebook, it's like, oh my gosh, I look 10 years younger, right? Okay, so that's not exactly what happens. Plastic surgery helps a lot with that. But if you don't want plastic surgery, let's talk about Hashem's foods. So I wanted to mention that this time of the year, the winter time, we put our clocks back. So by 4 o'clock, it's already dark and gloomy, right? And if we were living back in a shtetl or in other places in the world, we need improved night vision. Night vision is very important. So in the back of our eyes, we have a little yellow serum. And when you eat carotenoids, which are in the family of antioxidants, the carotenoids are the yellow, orange colors. It actually stimulates the night vision in the eyes. So what is growing right now? What does Hashem put in the world right now? Pumpkins, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, acorn squash. So when we eat these foods in the winter, it helps with vision on cloudy gray days, and it helps us see the world more clearly. And it's also fat soluble as opposed to water soluble. It stays in the fats of our body. And yes, we need a little bit of fat in our bodies because we're not Instagram models, right? We need a little bit of fat. And what happens is it keeps us warmer in the winter. So there's a philosophy called eating with the seasons. Now, we can't really do it because we don't know how farms around. And when you go into a store, oh my gosh, I was just in Muncie. I went to a store. I was like, oh my gosh, they have every berry. Berries are not in season right now. Really? Berries, strawberries, blueberries grow in the summer, and they're water-soluble antioxidants, and they help keep us cool. They help us perspire more, and they leave the system very quickly because you're out in the summer, you run into the park, you run into the beach, you're going all over the place. And so we need our water-soluble. But in the winter, we need our winter fat-soluble. So isn't that amazing? So if you want to tune into the way Hashem made the world, and keep our emotions stable in Hashem's world of chaos, then eating winter foods that help our eyesight and help stay in our body longer is a really, really important thing. So I wanted to talk about some herbs that are really important in the winter months as things change. So let me see what I brought here today, ladies. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so we've got this, we've got this, and we've got this. Okay. And we've got some ashwagandha. Okay, amazing. So it's very important in the cold winter months, and it's going up to 60 at the end of the week here, so we're going to be back to warm weather. But like, take a day like today where it's freezing cold. It's very important to wear your jackets and your hats and your gloves and your scarves. But what's also important is to keep our bodies warm from the inside out. Because when we ingest foods or drinks that keep us warm from the inside out, we're going to feel better and we're going to feel warmer for a longer period of time. So one of the important herbs for the winter is ginger. And ginger tea is super important because it helps increase circulation and it brings warmth from the inside out. I didn't bring my glass jar. I was running out of the house, but you can just take some ginger, buy for, I don't know, 15 cents, a piece of root this big, peel it, chop it up. There's no fancy way to do it. Put it in a pot, put some water over it, put a little bit of honey in it and bring it to a little boil for about 15 minutes, cool it down, and there's your ginger tea. Not complicated. And it will help increase circulation in our bodies. Now, I wanted to grab a ginkgo leaf, and I apologize, but does everybody know what ginkgo trees look like? Can anybody open up their phones for a moment and look up ginkgo? G-I-N-G-K-O, ginkgo. G-I-N-G-K-O, ginkgo. How do you spell it? Someone tell me. Okay, ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba is growing all over Crown Heights, all over the East Coast, and probably in the Midwest also. Everybody see those ginkgo leaves? Do ginkgo leaves and then do images. Mm-hmm.
They have those orange balls that fall on.
The orange balls that smell, yes, those are the female trees.
Oh, I see.
And the leaves look like little fans.
Yeah.
And they are all over the Brooklyn area. They are up and down Empire Boulevard, and they are everywhere.
Really? Can you go on a walk?
Oh, I would love. Have Michal, let's do it. I think she's feeding her baby. I would love. So let's do it right away in the spring. We can do 2 of them, the beginning of spring and later in the spring.
In Prospect Park, oh my goodness.
Oh my God, let's arrange it. We'll do a foraging medicinal weed walk and you will be amazed. So ginkgo is usually a green leaf and we tincture it right now when it turns yellow. So I want you all tomorrow, your homework is to go out and find a ginkgo tree. Take your phone and go out there and look.
For real? But they're not like dirty?
No, I want you to find it. I want you to just look at it.
How do you know if like the dog food and things?
Well, because ginkgo leaves are actually higher than our height. And they usually, the leaves start at about 5.5 to 6 feet up. And it's actually quite hard. Like when I first moved from California to Brooklyn and it was the fall, I saw a ginkgo bush, a ginkgo tree, and I crawled on top of a car and stood on the roof. My husband was newly married to me. I was like, you can't, and I was pregnant. You can't do this. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never really seen ginkgo. Oh my God. Okay, that's the only way I got to it. So don't worry about it. There's no dog making on them. And right now they're bright yellow. And usually when we make herbal medicine when the plants are new and fresh, when the leaves are gentle. They're soft and gentle, and usually in the spring and into the summer. Ginkgo happens to be a plant that we use right now when it's fall and it turns from green to yellow. It's one of the only plants we use when it changes its color. And ginkgo, which I have here, increases circulation in our bodies. It helps bring blood flow to the tips of our nose, to the tips of our fingers, and to the tips of our toes. And it also helps with brain fog. So when the weather changes right now, and it gets colder 6 weeks from now, because when you make a medicine, you take the leaves, you put it in a jar, you let it sit for 6 weeks. You take this is chamomile. You take a plant like this, you pour grain alcohol over it, you let it sit for 6 weeks, you strain the plant out and you keep the alcohol, and the alcohol is turned into medicine, and then it has a 10-year shelf life. Okay? So if we make ginkgo this week, 6 weeks from now, ladies, it's going to be freezing cold. It's the perfect time to need ginkgo, right? So Hashem really makes the plants for when we need them, which is unbelievable. In the spring, we'll go take a walk. We'll find an herb called goldenrod, which is amazing for spring allergies. And it'll grow right before the spring allergies come. And we can make it into an herb and use it for spring allergies.
It's really fine to just use like plants that are growing here, like it's not polluted or like.
Well, I don't really make a lot of medicines from the plants in Brooklyn, New York. I don't.
Okay.
But you can. And Prospect Park or Central Park would be a lot safer, a lot cleaner. I usually buy my herbs pre-made from people that live upstate, obviously. But I'm going to jump to something fascinating because I haven't been here since COVID, I don't think. So I had COVID between Purim and Pesach. And Baruch Hashem, I helped hundreds and hundreds of people with COVID. And it appeared that it was either a great mazel or the herbs really helped a lot. And I do think the herbs helped a lot. But none of my clients went in the hospital for the inability to breathe. And I want to tell you the most amazing thing. So I'm homesick for 4 weeks because I'm, slightly over 40, right? I'm not in my 20s, and I got hit a little bit hard. And when I got out, I wanted to walk to build up my lungs again. And there's an herb called cleavers, which we'll see in the spring. And I have never in 30 years living in Brooklyn seen more cleavers than I did during COVID time. It was on everybody's lawn, in every alleyway. It grew an epidemic in Brooklyn. What is cleavers for? It's a lymphatic drainage. So when you breathe in COVID or any virus, you want it to go through your lymphatic system as quickly as possible and leave your body. So what cleavers does is increase the movement of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is all over our body. And when you catch mono, it gets stuck in the lymphs. COVID too can get stuck in the lymphs. All our viruses get stuck in our lymphs. So we want to push it,
What is it?
The lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is what gets rid of bacteria and viruses in our system. So it was the most amazing thing to me in my life to see cleavers growing all over. So I made Cleaver's medicine this year, even in dirty Brooklyn. I had to. It was everywhere. I had to. I had no choice. It was everywhere. So it says that Hashem put the refua in the world before the illness. We've discussed this before. When you look at the days of creation, he created plants and trees before man. So I know that whatever Hashem put here in the world, I know that there are plants. I may not know all the plants or which plants, but I know that these plants are here to cure us. In the Beis HaMikdash, we had a mizbeach, just where we burnt plants, we burnt essential oils. So using plant medicine has been very much a part of our Jewish tradition. When we go to breathe besamim at Havdalah, it's so that our neshama feels okay as it's lifting away. So I wanted to share that with you. So back to ginkgo. So ginkgo is an herb you can take. It helps with anxiety, heart palpitations. It actually can help with asthma, and it opens up the lungs. And it is amazing plant. And it's growing all over Brooklyn and the East Coast and the Midwest right now. And it's here for us. Back to eating with the seasons.
Does it make a difference, like tea or like a vitamin capsule?
So I like it best in tincture form. I like it best in liquid form because it has a very long shelf life. And I don't like a lot of herbs in capsule form because whenever you take an herb and you dry it, you're already losing a lot of its potential, a lot of its constitutions, its essential oils. And when it sits on the shelf for a very long time, it's also not so viable anymore. So here is a root plant. And this is not the root that I'm talking about, but it's okay because I'm going to talk about a root plant. So there's another plant that we're harvesting right now, which is a plant called echinacea. Has everybody heard about echinacea? So I have on my Instagram page, if anybody wants to follow me, it's Sara Chana S. Every day on Instagram, or not every day, but as often as I can, I put up little 1-minute videos about plants. So I have something that I put up today or yesterday about echinacea. So echinacea is another plant that we harvest here in the fall. Most of our plants, again, are harvested in the spring or the early summer. But this is part of our fall harvest, because with echinacea, we want to take the root of the plant as opposed to the stalk and the flowers, although you can get echinacea these days with the root and the leaves. And when you're talking about plant medicine, the root has different medical properties than the stalk. The stalk has different medical properties than the leaves. The leaves have different medical properties than the flowers. Okay, so it's very fascinating that you have one plant like dandelion. You know, dandelion is what everybody hates in the spring because it ruins their lawns. But the leaf actually helps with kidney health and bladder health. That's the root. The leaves can help with inflammation or swelling. The seeds can also help with our liver congestion. And the oil of the flowers, the little yellow flowers, can help with skin tags. If you put the dandelion flower oil on a skin growth, it'll actually fall off. And it's also good for massage. So we have plants that have so many different help for us. So echinacea, the root is being pulled up from the ground right now. It's a little bigger than this root, but I wanted to just show you what a root plant looks like, and you can send this around. This is actually a ginseng, but it's very similar. We're going to talk about ginseng in a minute. And echinacea is an immunomodulator. That's a Siberian ginseng. It's an immunomodulator. That means that if your immune system is overacting, like with eczema or asthma, it'll pull it down. And if it's underacting, meaning you're getting colds and flus all the time, it'll pick it up. So now's the time that we're making echinacea for the next 6 weeks when everybody gets colds and flus as the winter comes, right? So that's another plant that I wanted to talk about because I opened this part of this conversation with eating with the seasons. And you want to use plants with the seasons. So I wanted to talk about the plant urethro, ELEUTHERO. This is a plant that's a Siberian ginseng. A ginseng is also a root plant. And urethro is used for people that burn themselves out, the candle at both ends of the candle. They are exhausted. They are overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, working. And the ginsengs give you a boost. Like if you went to Chinatown and you said, oh, I want to buy something for my husband, they'd say, oh, ginseng, make him a real man, ginseng. So the stronger ginsengs are supposed to, make you buff and strong. So urethra is a little bit of a calmer ginseng. It gives us that little bit of boost without a stimulating feeling like too strong a cup of coffee. So that's another plant that we're harvesting now with the root. So I wanted to introduce you to that. I also wanted to mention the herb called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is another plant that we're harvesting now. And ashwagandha works specifically on the thyroid. So if we get a little low thyroid, you don't have to have a low thyroid to take ashwagandha, but usually symptoms of your thyroid underacting a little bit is get cold easily. Most of us do that. Feel exhausted, lose a little more hair than you want to when you brush your hair. And ashwagandha helps with, if your thyroid is too high, then there's a completely different herb. No, because it kind of feeds the thyroid. Think of this herb as food for the thyroid as opposed to necessary regulating. If it needs regulation, it will regulate it. If you take the herb and you don't need regulation, it's just like food for the thyroid. It helps with brain fog. It helps you think clearer. And a lot of us get a lot of brain fog. These two herbs that I spoke about now, urethra and ashwagandha, are what is called adaptogens. So an adaptogen is a class of herbs that help us adapt to stress and adapt to lack of sleep, to adapt to smog in the air, to adapt to tension in the air. So an adaptogen works kind of wherever it needs to in the body. So I mentioned that it can be specific for thyroid, but if your thyroid doesn't need it, it's just going to give it a little food and move on its way. So adaptogens help us adapt to stress. So I did another Zoom lecture today, actually. One of my 3 topics was stress. And we were talking today about how it's really, really good to meditate, okay? It's really, really good to exercise. It's really, really good to breathe. And it's really, really good to get enough sleep. And it's really, really good to eat healthy foods. And it's really, really good to drink enough water. And what happens if 3 weeks pass and you can't do all of those things? I wanted to deep breathe today, but I had time to breathe. I wanted to meditate, but anytime I meditated, 50 million people bothered me. I really wanted to eat healthy, but who has time to cook? So I grabbed some potato chips and some pretzels, right? And I really wanted to drink a lot of water, but you know what I mean? I had a soda in my fridge and I drank that. So herbs are there to help us when we can't do the healthy things that we need to do. So you take a little Siberian ginseng when you haven't slept enough for the past 5 days, and it'll give you that little boost to get through. So when we take herbs, I like them best in tincture form. And you usually pick it up, and that's considered a dropper full, even though it only fills up halfway. And you take a little bit of water, take your herb, pop it in the water, grape juice or cranberry juice or apple juice, and down it like vodka. So,
but you can't just take it one day to do it.
Well, so it depends on where you're at. So let's say you say, Sarah Chana, it's been 3 months since I've been to the gym, and I'm exhausted, and I'm not sleeping well, and I'm not eating well, and I feel stressed out, and I know everything I'm supposed to do to get healthy, and I'm not there. Then you would take an herb like urethra 3 times a day for a month to get your body back to where it needs to. And when your body sometimes gets back to where it needs to, then you'll do everything that you know you're supposed to be doing, right? So as I was saying, that we all know what to do. Like it's not science, it's not hidden science anymore that we need to eat, sleep, meditate, breathe. But it doesn't mean we can always incorporate it in our lives. So when we take an herb, it'll help get our body back to where it needs, even if we're not doing everything right. So really from the inside out, we're supposed to cure ourselves, right? Really, we're supposed to speak to our therapist, speak to our mashpia, do everything right. But sometimes we just can't do that in our lives. And our herbs from the outside in are there to help us get to where we want to. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a crutch. It's kind of like a little bit of a best friend. Yes.
I know this is contradicting what you just said, but can you use Siberian ginseng instead of your morning coffee? As like
yes.
As your
yes.
As in, like in place of like
yes.
Do well with coffee. Yeah?
Yes. It's not going to work similarly to coffee because coffee is a different, it's a different medicine. Coffee is a medicine. It's been used for medicine for years. They've used it in enemas. They've used it for people that have wasteful diseases that can't get out of bed. So there is medicinal properties. But yeah, you can try some Siberian ginseng, some urethro, and I would take it every morning for a month. And so when you take herbs, some women are going to need 1 dropper full. This is considered 1 dropper full. And some women will need 2 of these in order to get what they need. So you have to play around with a little bit. Yes? Some of now everything I spoke about is so far is not really contraindicated with any medicines that people are taking. Ginkgo is on the internet contraindicated with thyroid medicine. Welcome. But it's not the herb I would suggest for someone that has a iffy thyroid, because you don't have to have a completely falling apart thyroid. But usually I really haven't seen side effects with herbs when used properly and gotten from a good source. It may not be the herb for you. You could take some Siberian ginseng and say, Chana, that's not working. I mean, so let's switch to some ginkgo. Let's see if ginkgo works. If ginkgo doesn't work, maybe we'll give you some ginkgo with some cayenne pepper, because cayenne pepper is something else I want to talk about in the winter, because it increases circulation inside your body and makes you feel less cold and more warm. So putting, unless it irritates your stomach, putting a cayenne pepper on your food in the winter will increase circulation and make you warmer. Does that make sense? So maybe, I mean, you can see like at Trader Joe's, they'll have like a ginger, cayenne pepper, lemon little shot that you take in the morning that can give you a boost and help the circulation. Yes.
In Russia, they would use it for they would have a bald spot, ladies, and then they would rub it in. It burned, but I guess
The cayenne pepper, because it stimulates blood flow to the area. And they believe that there's blood flow to the area. Yes, absolutely. So one more herb I wanted to talk about is, oh my gosh, my brain has got brain fog. Rose hips. Thank you. So rose hips, if anybody goes to a rose garden, all the petals are now off the trees. And we're left with this beautiful rose hip, which I didn't bring, I apologize. Rose hips are about this big or this small, and they're left for the birds, and the birds eat them all winter long, the birds that stay and do not migrate away from Brooklyn. And they're very, very high in vitamin C. And so they're very beneficial for us to drink rose hip tea in the winter, to put rose hips cooking with our chicken. You can put some rose hips in with your chicken soup. They're a very good source of vitamin C. And they also help with our vein health. Our vein health, it's very important because we have more trouble circulating blood in the winter because it's colder and our body shakes to try to keep the heat going in our bodies. And we tend not to exercise as much in the winters. So that's why rose hips are here from Hashem for us. And they're here to help increase our circulation and give us vitamin C in the winter, because we don't have many fruits that grow in the winter, so we don't have as much high vitamin C count. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to introduce us to today. I'm going to give a little reminder of what we talk about and then open it up to questions again. I think that laughter is underutilized. I certainly know in our yeshivas, especially our boys' yeshivas, they're not exploring the importance of laughter. I think that if all the kids got to take a break in the middle of the day for laughter, that it would ease the tension, ease the stress levels. And I think, you know, as women of tomorrow, we're the ones that are creating our Jewish communities and creating our girls' schools and our boys' schools, that we can demand that there's a time that the kids are encouraged to laugh and allowed to laugh. And I think as mothers, sisters, and friends, knowing laughter is a super, super important thing. We spoke about feng shui today. Feng shui is important because we need to keep our environment an environment that we want to walk into. And that includes having live plants. You know, it's very interesting in feng shui because if your plant starts to lose leaves, you're supposed to cut them off immediately because they don't want you to see things decaying around you. Having fresh cut flowers, especially ones that reflect in the window, in your mirror, is very important. If you don't like a chair in your apartment, get rid of it. Put it on the street. Someone else may love it. Or go online, and you can on Amazon for like probably $3 get a piece of material and staple it underneath if you'd like a prettier bottom to your chair. Take a moment when you go home and reevaluate your environment and what in your environment can you fix? Is there a light bulb out? You gotta fix it right away. Your environment can create a terrible mood or a happy mood for you. And colors, you know, we may not all be able to afford to get our palette done, but it is something I encourage everybody to save money for, because each person, when you get your own individual palette, you really feel good. And even if you're having a cruddy day, and you put on a color in your color palette, it can brighten up all of our challenges. But if you can't get it done, go get a beautiful scarf in a color that works for you. And then Hashem gave us all these foods that are growing now in the fall, and he's having them grow for a specific reason. All our root vegetables, our onions, and everything that grows in the ground actually have more minerals and more trace minerals and vitamins than plants that grow up on a tree. And it's very interesting when you go outside and you see all the plants, all the leaves falling. I'm not a root expert, but I did this amazing course on botany. I wish I remembered everything. I was kind of like on the trains on the way to teaching classes and kind of like on planes. And they were talking about how the roots of the plants don't really go into hibernation in the winter. They're more active in the winter than they are in the spring and the summer, because in the winter, they're gathering all the vitamins and nutrients. And there's different fungi, positive fungi, that grow when the soil is completely damp. And roots actually communicate with each other. The root of one plant communicates with the root of another plant, saying, oh my gosh, there's a pest in the area. There's a bug that we have to worry about. And what they're doing is they're gaining all their vitality in the trunks of the trees and the roots. So when spring comes, everything's ready and to actualize. Everything's already in the plant. It's already there from its months of the winter to be able to bloom instantly in the spring. And if you look at the trees now, you're going to see as they're decaying, the leaves are decaying. And what are the decaying leaves doing? They're composting the land for us. They're actually putting vitamins and minerals into the ground. In America, we don't do Shemitah. Shemitah is when you let the land sit and the leaves and the vegetables and the flower, the fruits and the vegetables fall from the trees, go into the ground. We leave it alone and it composts the ground. And then that's how the soil gets all the vitamins and nutrients to create our vegetables and fruits. So we don't have that. And that's why a lot of our vegetables and plants that we eat now from the supermarkets are depleted of them. But right now, these decaying leaves are composting the ground to give that vitality to spring. So if we begin to eat with the seasons, look up in your area which plants are growing now, and understand the herbs that are growing now, then we live with the seasons and live with the world the way Hashem made the world. And then we can be stronger emotionally and physically to deal with all of our challenges in the world. And that's really what health is all about. Health is so individual to each person. As a homeopath, I don't have this picture of what health is. It's what is for each person. Make sense? Certain people can hike for 5 miles, and other people, it's really amazing if they can hike for a half a mile. Some people need 10 hours of sleep at night, and some people really can function on 5 hours of sleep. Some people really need 3 meals a day, and other people like, I'm lucky if I eat 2, but I can't eat more than that. So each one of your healths is completely different. Completely. Some have dry skin, some have oily skin, some have thick hair, some have thin hair. The goal of herbalists and homeopaths is to give each individual the strength they need to become the most powerful person they can, because as I spoke in the beginning of the lecture, Hashem drops this soul in this vessel of a human body. Some have more deficits than others. Some are stronger. But in order to carry our neshama to do our journey in the world, we have to make sure that in Teva, our body stays as strong as it can. And I hope you guys got some great, easy to use tips. Any questions before we close down? Any thoughts on color or feng shui or foods or winter foods? Yes.
I feel like I always ask questions.
Don't worry. I love it. I ask questions when I'm at lectures.
So about feng shui, I know this is a little bit more specific, but like for the classroom, do you have like ideas, especially now during COVID with all the kids wearing masks, 6 feet apart, like these barriers, like a little bit intense.
It's very intense.
Any good feng shui ideas for the classroom?
Well, one of the things you can do is put 1 little drop of essential oil on the inside of your mask. And then you're at least breathing in a little bergamot or a little lang-lang or a little sandalwood. Obviously not 10 drops.
Like which one are you're saying? Well, I'm just curious. Like,
so there are certain essential oils that boost you up and certain ones that calm you down. So the essential oils that give you a little bit of a boost are like our grapefruit, our lemon, our tangerine, our lime, all of our citrus. So I was giving another lecture today and I said, like if it's really hard for you to get up in the morning, and you got to get up at 8. I think that's too early. You got to get up at 9, right? So at 8:45, you can have a diffuser for $10. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy a timer for like $5, and you can set it that at 8:45, your diffuser goes on with beautiful essential oils that are stimulant. So you wake up going, I can't go to sleep. I can't wake up. I can't wake up. And you're like, okay, that grapefruit's not so bad. Maybe I can make it through the day. And then if you want to go to bed at 11, which is never going to happen before midnight, right? You can have another timer in your room with another diffuser that at about 11:30 has more calming and relaxing essential oils like lavender or sandalwood and frankincense. And you can have them going off in the room. So you come in the room and go, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of 500 million things. Oh my gosh, I didn't do the dishes. Oh my gosh, I can't go to sleep. And you can breathe these oils that'll calm you down. Does that make sense?
Does it make a difference what diffuser? Like
they are.
They're from like $10 to $50. Like,
buy a $10 one.
Seriously?
They're so easy and so you don't need an expensive one. Yes, they don't diffuse as well as the electrical ones. They just don't. They're good, but the ones that they make now with the water just diffuse so much better and fill the room so much better with smells that I would suggest that. But we were talking about COVID and masks and social distancing. Yes, it's very, very hard. And that's a time to put on a color shirt that makes you feel a bright yellow or an orange or something that's exciting to look at, because people around you are also like in this blah state. Does that make sense? So come in with a turquoise shirt, come in with a great purple or something a little bit vibrant so you can help give good energy to other people. That's what I would suggest. Any other questions?
What you said about the hallway makes so much sense. I'm like, right away I was thinking of someone's hallway that like always gets me nervous because it's a narrow hallway and it's the only, like they have like tons of stuff in it. I'm like, every time I go, I like get nervous. So it makes so like put words to.
Yeah.
How can you make your hallway more exciting?
You could paint both the sides yellow if you could. You could put Again, you can hot pink. You can get these stickers that are. It's so funny because I just got a new a decal. I just got a new sticker for my office door that says masks must be worn to save the community. Right. So they have these decals now, these stickers that really stick, and you can pull them off and they don't ruin the wall. It's really amazing. So you can get butterflies, I don't know, stars in your hallway. Make sense? And you get bored of them, you pull them down, you spend $5 on them, and next week have other colors. But it's important to be conscientious of your environment and make sure that the environment's working for you. And sometimes you can get one throw pillow for $4. That's a beautiful color on your bed. And every time you look over to your bed, you're like, oh, wow, that's really pretty. So you have to be conscious of it. I'll tell you a very interesting thing. During the Depression, people really didn't have food and really didn't have money. I mean, it was a very big problem. So has anybody heard about Depression glass? So Depression glass was during the 1940s into the early 50s. They had, you can look it up after on your phone. They had glass plates that would have a yellow tint or a blue tint or a green tint. And the mugs started having a little color because people were eating like rice with, like leftover bones, what I mean? Chicken bones. And they decided that if you could eat on a plate that was more exciting, that they would feel less depressed. And it's called Depression glass. And you'll see they're beautiful. They were reds, yellows, greens, and blues. And they were created to help pick up the community. So there's a lot of women that do color therapy, which I don't, but it's very interesting. And they tell you to get like a glass that's like with a yellow tint and put it on the windowsill. This is more like spring and summer. And the energy of the sun comes into the water through the yellow and will give you more vibrance. So we can do that in the winter months. We can bring color into our lives when it's gray and gloomy and icy and rainy. But you have to be conscious about it. You have to say, I'm going to change my environment. And, sometimes you get a best friend to come over, or not even a best friend, a really good friend. And you go, you know what, let's redo this room. Let's take 5 hours. And you put on some rock and roll music and you have a diffuser going and you have someone redo the room with you. You'll feel great. Who doesn't feel great if they clean out a drawer? Do you know what I mean? Like you're like for a month, like, oh my God, my underwear drawer. It is so organized. I love it. Right? And that's like, oh my God, I can actually see what I have. And so we get overwhelmed. Do that. Redo your room a little bit. Get it into feng shui. And you're going to, and I have really specific tips in MOODTOPIA. I go over exactly how to feng shui your room. And it's totally fine, I'll be Yiddishkeit, to feng shui your room so that you feel better and you don't get as distracted by the negative. They talk about, it's interesting about like energy forces. So what you want is the energy to be able to pass around your room and move and not get stuck. So in Chinese medicine, they say that when you have stagnant energy, disease comes. So you got a little stuffy nose, and if it gets clogged in your sinuses, the fluid that at first was not bacteria will turn into bacteria because it's stagnant, okay? If you get stagnant fluid in your knees, it can turn into arthritis. And we also know, And we also know that if we get like a puddle of water that's stagnant, we get mosquitoes and dangerous bugs, right? So we know that if you're ever lost in the woods and you see a pond, you're not supposed to drink the water because there could be bacteria and fungus. But if the river's moving, you can take the water and you can drink it.
Oh, really?
Read some of these survivals. Yes. Right. So the creek you can, because movement gets rid of disease and destruction. So in feng shui, they believe that with the energy of your room, that you should not have something blocking your window so that you can open it up and the air can move in. And you also don't want there to be clutter in the corner because the energy can stay there and then cause destruction. You want to be able to have a swoop in your house of energy. So even if you're in a bad mood, you get on a phone call with someone, you're like, really? Are you kidding me? You know, you're screaming and yelling, and you're rightfully screaming and yelling, and you hang up the phone. So really, you have this energy that just came out of your body, right? So do you want it to get stuck by a clump of mess over there? No, you want that energy to dissipate. Open up a window after you're angry so the energy can just, and energy is a real thing, and just dissipate. Make sense? So that's why Feng Shui is so important, so that we can get in our bad moods, get a little grumpy, and the energy can just move away.
Is there like also we do essential oil for like claustrophobia, or when you can't Feng Shui that humanitarian shield that you have to, you know?
For sure. That's where like your peppermints come in. Peppermint, spearmint, they're very pick me up. They open your sinuses. They open your if you have a headache and you actually breathe in peppermint essential oil, it actually dilates and you can get rid of your headache faster. So that would be like a peppermint or a spearmint or anything in the mint family. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, ladies? Okay, Michal, anything else?
You're awesome.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you got some great ideas as we are in fall, moving towards winter. Thank you, ladies.